Okay, here's my little review of Dead Space, things I like, things I don't like. The game is good. Don't wait for a sale. It's worth every dollar. Just buy it. And I said this in a different video. I was convinced that Dead Space was going to be this like soulless cash grab because of EA, to be honest. And that Callisto Protocol was going to be like the game to get, right, between these two. And unfortunately, Callisto was kind of meh. And Dead Space Remake is actually really good. Here's some good things. The two primary aspects of Dead Space, I'd say first is combat, and second, a close second is like general horror vibe or atmosphere. Both of these things are very good. The combat is largely how you remember it. So you've got the shooting, enemy variety is very good. The weapon variety is very good. You upgrade weapons, you upgrade your suit. There are some changes, new interesting ways of like introducing upgrades with like special items that you can buy or find, and there's like special like powerful nodes on each of the weapons you can get to like really up the effectiveness of the weapon and that sort of thing. And they took out a lot of like useless functions on certain weapons. For example, the pulse rifle had this goofy shoot all directions thing that no one used unless you were memeing. And that was replaced with a remote mine that basically functions as an underbelly grenade. So you can just launch it at the enemy for an instant explosion, or you can put it on a surface and wait for proximity to an enemy to trigger it as like a warning and damage. And you can like pack it back up into like ammunition to pick back up like the detonator from Dead Space 2. So various weapon upgrades and changes, that's all good. The atmosphere is very good. The sound design for almost the entire game is very good. I do have some minor nitpicks on the sound, which I'll get to later, but generally it's very good. Atmosphere is good and so on. The story is largely the same. They gave a voice to Isaac, which is a good addition. Some people were like unsure, like, should we give a voice to Isaac? And it's like, yeah, of course you should. I don't know why would you never give a voice to Isaac? We know that Gunnar Wright reprising his role does a good job. So why wouldn't you want to give Isaac a voice? It doesn't make sense. People just bark orders at Isaac and him just to run around and do it. That was a good addition as well. Some other changes that were worth mentioning, some kind of like tactful, how should we say, modifications to some areas in the game. In the original game, there was this goofy like get on the cannons and like arcade shoot at asteroids and shoot at like the big monster. And it's honestly kind of stupid. In the new version, you are actually near the terminals where the cannons are, and you aim and align the gun with how you're aiming, and then you're calibrating the weapon to then fire automatically. This is a much more tasteful and interesting change. It doesn't really affect the story at all, but it's just a little more sensible and interesting. There's some changes like that just make a little more sense when you compare it to the original Dead Space. Another complaint too is the game is honestly too easy. So I played it on hard my first time, and then the second run I did an impossible run with no weapon upgrades because I'm a nerd like that. So it took me 3 attempts to finish impossible with this little challenge run. I did upgrade the suit, but not the weapons. And I used every weapon pretty extensively in that run. And I gotta say, the game's not that hard. It's really not that difficult. Certain enemies need more health. There's just so many ways to use the environment, which is a good thing, to kill enemies, and you can kill enemies with using little to no ammo. The problem is on the first run on hard, I was just selling huge surpluses of ammo, like a third to a half of my ammo on hand, almost every store visit, and I had like almost 400,000 credits at the end of the game. Really the only, shall we say, objective critique I can give the combat is melee is just kind of whatever. It's an afterthought. The gunplay and the weapon variety and the enemy variety is so good though, it makes up for it. But it would be nice to have some sort of supplemental melee combat. So the main combat of Dead Space will always be shoot the enemy before they get to you. It's like an aiming game and like a setup game, right? But they could add some sort of backup melee system. So in the event that the necromorphs get to you, you can engage in several options. Another personal thing I would like to see is a kind of injury system. And I mentioned this in Callisto Protocol as well. Something along the lines of when necromorphs attack you, there's a chance to like have a broken bone or have a concussion or like acid or burn trauma or maybe like a marker or curse or whatever it is. And you can buy and find these other types of items like a splint or bandage type things or like pills for concussion or whatever, and they alleviate these concerns. Now this could be like an optional system, right? So when you start your game, it's like I choose hard difficulty and I choose to have the survival mode active. So you don't have to have that, but it'd be a way to increase the difficulty in a way that's not simply adding health and adding damage to enemies like every game does. And again, this is the same critique I had for Callisto. Dead Space is not a survival horror game. What is the survival mechanic? There is none. Okay, having a health bar is not a survival mechanic. Adding an injury system, in my opinion, would make it more of a survival game. That survival horror game, that is. Because what you want to have is a situation basically where it's like, do I buy the splint to fix my leg, or do I buy extra ammo? Or I'm out of inventory space. Do I bring the splint and the concussion pills, or do I bring a stasis charge and a med kit? And you're making these decisions, right? Those are the kinds of things that you want in a survival game, is like resource management. There's not really resource management in the game. It's basically just bring health kits and ammunition. Like whatever, right? So those are my basic thoughts. The game is very good. Pick it up at full price. You'll definitely enjoy it. If you like Dead Space games in general, you're going to like it. What did you think about Dead Space Remake? People like it a lot. It's getting a lot of positive reviews. Instead of telling me your favorite weapon in the comments, tell me what your favorite enemy was. My favorite enemy was definitely the Twitchers. They just had like a really cool presence about them, really fast, that built-in stasis that would pop, and like they're just hard to kill. I think I just like the challenge. Do you agree with my critiques? Do you have critiques of your own? What did you think was good or a bit weaker about the game? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.